Welcome back, Duelists, and happy Spooktober, of course. I did say I would do this. I did mention this a couple of times. Can't do speed duels and you can't do Spooktober without zombies. And the creepiest character of all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Had to have been Bonz, guys. So today's my speed duel Bonz deck profile. Little disclaimer before I get into this one. I gotta admit, this is probably not my best work. I'm not sure if there was just zombie cards that were missing from my collection. It's pretty darn near complete. Or if it's just the speed duel sets in general just didn't really support zombies yet. But this is still a really good attempt. Again, I'll probably classify this one as more casual than Dragon Caller or Restrict Relinquished was. But let's just start the profile, shall we? So I'm going to be utilizing the Ectoplasmic Fortification skill card this time. And then going into our deck, we're going to have a copy of the Armored Zombie. We're going to use Despair from the Dark. I'm going to use 2 copies of Double Coston. I'm going to have 3 copies of our Dragon Zombie, 1 copy Goblin Zombie, and 1 copy Vampire Lord to round out my monsters. Going into our spells, I'm going to have 2 copies of Lure of Darkness and 2 copies of the Faustian Bargain, pretty sweet art, and 2 copies Pyramid of Wonders. Actually pretty underrated, but I had to play what I had to play. Now, to give this deck a little more staying power against things, our trap lineup is going to have 2 copies of Adhesion Trap Hole, 2 copies of Skill Successor, and it wouldn't be one of my decks without Waking the Dragon. And moving on to our extra deck, we're going to have the 1 copy Blue Eyes Ultimate, 1 copy Great Mammoth Goldvine, 1 copy Ryu Senshi, 1 copy of Skull Knight, and to round it out, the 1 copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict. So if you guys only came in for a deck list today, class is dismissed, but if this has been helpful to you, and if you've been enjoying the content so far, consider hitting the subscribe button. Enough of that, let's talk about the deck now. So starting with the skill card, Ectoplasmic Fortification, once per turn, if you control a zombie monster, you can place a counter on it. All zombies that you control gain 100 and lose 100 defense for every counter. Biggest drawback here is any damage you're taking from battles involving your zombies is going to be double. And that's why we got our nice little special edition die here. Because again, most turns you're going to start, it's immediately going to be at 1, and all your cards are going to be a little more powerful. Now, I can breeze over the normal monsters, and I'll talk about them when there's a card that actually deals with them. So, Despair from the Dark has a couple of reasons to be in here. Number 1, big beefy zombie at 2800. And the effect that if it is sent from the hand or the deck to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this. Now, if you are playing another zombie deck, obviously Vampire Lord and Goblin Zombie can send cards from the opponent's deck to the discard pile. That's a great way to get this guy out and speed it up. And again, if that's a first turn, that's 2900. If it's a second turn, it's 3000 already. And again, to take care of the tributes, we're going to have Double Cost in here. He can be tributed as 2 tributes for a single dark monster. So if we start with the Costin will be at 18 because of our fortification. And of course, Despair will then be 3k on the second turn when you summon it yourself. But with cards like Dawn Zalug and everything that are actually in the game being pretty cool, you may actually special summon him with his effect. If not, just a big boss monster. And again, Double Costin, besides being able to let you power out that Despair from the Dark, it's actually a 1700 point zombie, which I think is actually the strongest 4-star zombie right now. And that's why we ran 2. Again, Dragon Zombie, just stats, 1600. Goblin Zombie's in here for only one reason, and it is because he can pull any one of my normal zombies to my hand. And we're going to use that with the Faustian Bargain later. However, if he does inflict battle damage to the opponent, you do get to send the top card from their deck to the discard pile. So I only ran a single. It's tougher to make these types of cuts when you're only dealing with a 20 card deck. half size, half the strategy. You just got to think about your card placement just a little more than in the masterclass version of the game. So Vampire Lord's a pretty cool pick because number one, he looks amazing, and I love that they made him an ultra rare for this. And if he inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you declare a card type, monster, spell, trap. Your opponent has to send one from their deck to the discard. Once per turn, during the next standby phase after this, it was in your possession and destroyed and sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon it back. So he does have a little bit of recursion. I'm not sure how often that's actually going to pop up. I just wanted to have a decent stat, decent effect card for the tribute, because I felt that Despair from the Dark was not a boss monster by himself, more or less like co-parenting. These guys are the mommy and daddy of the deck, and that's all fine and well. And if you look at the attributes real quick, because obviously Allure is the next card, every card I picked was a dark, so it doesn't matter. Allure of Darkness is always going to be a draw 2 as long as you started with a monster in your hand. And drawing cards is definitely going to be way more important when you draw 2 cards out of a 20 card deck. It's 10% of your deck that you're going to be able to pick up at a single time. That's kind of important. The Faustian Bargain, like I said, pairs off well with the normal monsters in our deck and helps us battle back against previous decks I made. Obviously, since this spell does target, you're not going to be able to do this as effectively against my Dragoncaller build. However, you will be able to do this effectively against the Thousand Eyes Restrict and Relinquished build. So the effect here is target a special summon monster on either side of the field. We're going to choose the opponent. Send it to the graveyard and special summon a level 4 lower normal monster from my own hand. We're literally just trading theirs for mine. And sometimes that little bit of imbalance is great, since it's sent and it's not a destroy effect. And again, I think Relinquished and Restrict are both, if beaten in battle, if beaten in battle, then they would peel the equipped monster first. So that's going to be fantastic. So we're going to run that at 2 for consistency. I did pick the Pyramid of Wonders. This does get better the more monsters your opponent has, but again, this is speed duel. We're only going to get the 3 monster card zones and the 3 spell trap zones. So by itself, it's a 2 to 600 power increase, and then if you double it up because they do stack, then it could be considered like up to 1,200 points, plus your Ectoplasmic Fortification. So the zombies are going to continually get stronger. And out of the 5 skills, I felt like this was the best one I could build around. I didn't think there was enough Skull Servant cards to make that. So just on that note, in the next few days or so, I'm actually going to have a masterclass version of a Skull Servant deck. Maybe watch out for that. It's going to be casual rated. I still can't wrap my head around how to actually get that to poke into a competitive stance, but it's super fun to play nonetheless. Back to Pyramid of Wonders. So my monsters, my zombies, will gain 200 attack for every opponent monster. And if exactly one zombie monster I control and no other cards would be destroyed by an effect, I can send this card to the graveyard instead. So this should be, in fact, battle or card effects. So very cool. Now, the Adhesion Trap Hole is what's going to really let me take it to the Dragoncaller deck. When the opponent summons a monster or monsters, notice it doesn't say normal, doesn't say special, so it doesn't matter. And that little parentheses S means that if it happens at the same time, I can apply the effect to multiple cards, have their original attack. So if in the instance of Double Blue Eyes, we're talking about 2 monsters now at 1,500, and just about every one of my cards, I think the weakest one is actually the Goblin Zombie at 11. And if we have a couple of turns for Ectoplasmic Fortification, well, we need a few more than that, we can eventually start tying it. But even on a single turn, most of my deck is going to be able to deal with Blue Eyes White Dragon. And of course, Tyrant Dragon being 100 points weaker, that dropped down to 1450. And Adhesion Trap Hole not targeting means that you do not have to worry about the Lord of Dragons. So, cool tech. Never really thought I'd get to play this card. I remember pulling this a long time ago in the actual game, and just never really found a way to play it. Luckily, Speed Duel got my back. They released a more limited set of cards for their play, and kind of a standout right now. The skill successors are amazing because, well, you get to activate these twice. So once while it's on the field as a set card, we can flip that up, target a face-up monster that I control. It can give it an additional 400 until the end of the turn, and during my own turn, except the turn it is sent to the graveyard, I can banish it, and then target a face-up monster I control and give it 800. Now, one of my favorite things about this is it doesn't say that I can't activate different copies. So if I used one skill successor previous, and it's my turn, I can flip another one and banish the original one, and I can stack those again. That's another 1200 plus whatever Ectoplasmic is doing for me. And then you got to check again, make sure the Pyramid of Wonders isn't doing some interaction for you. And just fantastic. And again, it's going to help your zombies push. It's going to keep them relevant. And it may not be tier 1, but it's still going to be fun. And of course, one of my decks just isn't complete without Waking the Dragon. Even when I don't play it, though, I will have an extra deck just to threaten the opponent psychologically. Obviously, you can't tell whether your opponent is or isn't going to have it as long as an extra deck is available to them. And again, if this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect and is either in the graveyard or banished, special summon one monster from my deck or the extra deck. And the reason I chose my extra deck again is the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is just the strongest onboard card. And even against the Dragon Caller deck, if I do get put to defense with the Windstorm of Itaqua, I'm not really looking at losing my dragon, and then I'll just switch it to attack mode. We'll go to grind, unless my opponent just submits at that point. I did put Mammoth the Goldfine in here just because there was no real way I was going to play him by his own effects or adding polymerization into this deck. It just didn't seem worthwhile to me. But I did want this card to be in a sleeve today, so boom. Ryu Senshi again, just dealing with those traps. If you find yourself where you need to tech play out of something, he's a great pick. Skull Knight, of course, just a great Halloween-looking demon spellcaster made up of brains. I just wanted him in here, let's be honest. And of course, Thousand Eyes Restrict, one of the best tech fusion monsters ever printed in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And again, other monsters on the field cannot change their battle positions or attack. Once per turn, target a monster your opponent controls, equip it to this card, maximum of 1. The attack and defense become equal to that, and if this card would be destroyed by battle, destroy the equipped monster instead. The only thing he really lacks that Relinquished did have was Relinquished was allowed to punish your opponent by sharing the damage during that attack when it's either attacked or is the one attacking, and in this case, he would be the one attacking to suicide run the monster off of himself to hopefully pick a better card. But he's definitely a Faustian target if you're playing against it. Hopefully this deck will do good against the other two. But again, I'm just a little disappointed that there wasn't enough to do a Skull Servant deck. So look for that in the masterclass videos. Again, it's going to be a casual, just like this one. It's fun to play. You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later.